ICT Joe Mucheru was or is before them at this particular moment. They got a bit into the shutdown of the 4 media stations where Senator Moi, who represents or who's the chairperson of that committee, asked the ICT about the incident. He called the incident unfortunate, ugly, and also more in regards to the same. But for the ICT Joe Mucheru, his response was that this is a matter that he is not comfortable discussing on live TV. But he wanted to assure the Senate committee that government's commitment to freedom of speech and media remains intact. Let's listen in as the ICT continues to speak on various issues affecting his docket.
The ICT Ministry and even to the Communications Authority with many interesting proposals. But those proposals need to be subjected to the government environment, private sector environment. And so we're creating a lab that is going to allow many of these young people, innovators, to bring their technologies to be tested, and then we can look at how to move those forward, whether it is through funding or other methods, but look at a way of commercializing those activities. This is what we're calling the white box, so a place where we can actually test these initiatives. And finally, content development. A lot of the content available online is foreign content, and any of our content that is in English tends to be grouped with the rest of the world as opposed to being our own content. So we want to find ways of ensuring that this content is being managed and is growing and is an area where you can use advertising to make money and create jobs for our citizens. So the priority projects are described in the next slide, where you can see on the basic voice, the way we have already started, we've tendered different lots. If you look at the first one, we have about 202 sub-locations that are to be covered. And this is going to go to the unserved people. There are many people who say they don't have networks in their areas, and this process is already ongoing. As you can see, in terms of awards, we've awarded about 32% of the lots. And we hope by the end of this year that we should have at least covered all these sub-locations, which should take us to 100% voice coverage in the areas where we have the population, which is key. In the next slide, we have a project that is providing broadband in the education sector, the secondary schools. And the idea here is that we want all the secondary schools, there are about 8,000 of them, 500. We want all of them to have broadband. We already, some of the mobile providers have provided the broadband services to the primary schools. So for the secondary schools, using the Universal Service Fund, in the first lot where we had about 896 schools, we have gone out with about 837 million. And these schools are going to have broadband. We're talking of 5 megabits downlink, 1 megabit uplink, and this is spread across the country. You will see in the appendix the list of all the secondary schools, and this is a project that will continue for the next 8 years to ensure we have all the schools covered. I'm informed 500 are already live as we speak today of the 896. So if we look at the next slide, which is the status of disbursements of year 1 and year 2, the voice projects disbursement, we have 1.2 billion and 1.7 billion for those voice projects. For 2018-2019, that is going to be starting shortly. For the education project, I've mentioned the 837 million, which is already connected for 500 schools. We'll connect more. And we have another 800 schools that will be done in the year 2018-2019, the financial year. So the commitments to date are 4.6 billion shillings. And so far the fund has collected 7.1 or 7.2 billion shillings. If we go to the next slide, this shows the projections of how we intend to fill the gaps. The fund itself will continue to grow in terms of the revenue that will be coming in, but at the same time, we expect the needs are going to continue to grow as our population grows and as consumers become more sophisticated, they get more smarter devices, and therefore they will need more and more bandwidth. So that graph, again, just describes the kind of growth we're seeing. And this is good for the country because we expect to see a positive growth. So that's the answer to the first question on what is the status of the fund. And before I go into how the projects are awarded, I don't know if there are any questions or comments on that part.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Buenos Dias. When we talk about issues like this, you have heard in my introduction that I'm from the Turkana County, and my questions on issues like this are specific to Turkana County and other adjoining counties. How much of this, what you've just described, use of this Universal Service Fund has been used in Turkana, has been used to avail voice coverage and broadband coverage in schools and throughout the county. You mentioned a security issue. You say the security of the country. Turkana is a hotbed for security. These ICT services are very important over there. When people are under attack, they need to be able to call the police or call somebody to come and help. So having this coverage, having internet within that county would be a good idea, and it's something I request your ministry to look into. We need these network services throughout Turkana. So this Universal Fund, how much of that is going to get Turkana to that level that you're mentioning? Thank you.
So, thank you, Chairman. I can respond to that. So, okay.
No, I'm a neighbor of the Turkana, so I just wanted to edit what my friend was saying. He said that when the people are attacked, they should be there. I think also when they attack people, there should be a network everywhere for both sides. The situation, I think, what I wanted to raise was the issue of voice in terrain that is so varied, mountainous terrains. It has been tried. You have tried to provide the equipment. You try to provide what do you call them? The masts. You try to provide the masts. You put them wherever you put them, but accessing certain terrains has been very difficult. And the cases in point is the mountainous West Pokot County, which, because of the way that, of course, communication travels, it's not possible to be able to deal with the people who are down in the valleys or sometimes over the other side of the valley and so on. Is there a new technology? Is there a technology that, using this fund, can then deal with those areas where the normal masts and directional provisions don't allow for the network to reach?
I am the neighbor of the warriors, so I'll also add a little bit. But before I get to that, Buenos Dias, and I hope this doesn't become another national security issue, but there was mentioned, there's a report of a lab whereby at the DCI, where the 1 billion of the USF fund was going to be channeled. Perhaps if you could just throw some light for us on this, and whether or not, from the objectives you mentioned, this really qualifies to be funded from this, bearing in mind that the Directorate of Criminal Investigation has its own budget. Why then money meant for infrastructure, for special projects and other things could then go there? In my mind, one of the best funded, places are security places. So I don't know why then this would be channeled. Please let us know about that a little bit. Additionally, in terms of voice, a lot of counties, Isiolo County, for instance, is on 2G. Even that basic 2G, and I'm sure they can attest to this, doesn't work in some places. There's no coverage at all. I was in Baringo last week, and the citizens during the, by the way, congratulations to the Communications Authority for the Kikao Kiku. I think it's a brilliant idea, and it's very good that you're reaching out to the people. But one of the things they said to me is that we have to climb these hills. They were showing me the hills where they have to climb to be able to communicate. So where is the priority? Is it to then make sure that people are not climbing hills, or is it to then channel it to an agency that perhaps already has its own budget? So I'm a bit concerned around what priorities you're setting, and also just from the rollout you're presenting to us, it doesn't seem to prioritize the most marginal areas, the areas that have the worst coverage. It just seems to me like just a projection of a 5-year plan that takes everything as if the factors are equal. So could you please tell us how you're prioritizing and which are the first places you're going to be targeting? Because that is of interest. Because one of the places that we are... Sorry. So one of the things we are hoping will really equalize is ICT. Because the places that are not yet covered can actually leapfrog without having to go through all the other redundant steps. So please tell us what are your priorities, and that would really be of interest to this committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Chairman. Some of my team have done some back of the envelope calculations just based on what we've given. So far, Turkana County, for instance, has over 288 million that is already been put in. It's actually got the highest award of all the ones for ensuring that people have access to the services. Let me clarify that we're starting first with where people are in terms of coverage, in terms of providing them with services, versus going and covering the whole landmass. Each of these counties have got huge landmasses and not everybody in those places, so we are looking at how do we reach the people first. And this project is already underway, and as mentioned, in the presentation, yes, you're seeing a graph, but there's in the appendix very detailed lines that show where the connections are going to be taking place. And it's our plan that by the end of this year, we will have 100% coverage on voice. That is the current plan. The second thing is there are many new technologies that are coming in that are also bringing in some of the existing players to now start covering some of the more remote rural areas. They're becoming more profitable. For instance, there's a rural mast that one of the vendors now is producing from 250,000 US dollars for one mast. Now they're able to produce a similar mast for less than $50,000, which means it's becoming more economical for the operators also to move into some of these areas. And so we've been testing that to see how best they can reach. And therefore, other than the Universal Service Fund, there is also the private sector moving into some of these areas. There is also, from my previous employer, Google, they have been testing in our region. They've been testing the balloons. These balloons give up to 4G, and this is in line with the new technologies you're asking. And the 4G technologies allow you to now cover such a huge area just using the balloon technology. We've been testing that here in the country, and we expect this year we're going to see use, and therefore it will accelerate the process of not just voice, but also data. And we're talking of 4G, which is almost equivalent to broadband for many of the people in the marginalized areas. So it's our intention to see that those are done in the fastest possible way. As a government, we want to see the growth of our economy, our people, just equalizing and changing their status through offering ICT services. The lab and the funding for the lab is not from USF. That is is being made available. This is for cyber security, and for cyber security, it is a multi-agency activity. It is not only the security services. So we have all the different agencies, including private sector, the bankers. As you may know, for instance, the Law Society lost over 15,000 records of all their biometric data of all their lawyers. These security concerns are across the board. So the budget provided is not from USF, it is there, but it's for cybersecurity, which is a multi-agency activity. So from that perspective, we are all good.
So there's no money moving from USAF to...
No, there's no money from USF. Correct.
Chair, just a follow-up. I have a bit of a concern around where people are. Where I come from, people are here today but not there tomorrow because they move from place to place. So as a government, and the reason why the telcos were not doing what they were doing and paying therefore into the USF fund, the 25 whatever percent that they do, is so that the government then anticipates where the people will be, or it doesn't really then use the same conclusions that the commercial telcos are using to say we are not going there because the people are not there. And that is why this fund is there. So that even if, of course, I'm not saying let's cover the entire landmass, but certain places where we come from, people move from place to place. They're not here today, but tomorrow they're going to be there. And the next day they'll be where they were not there yesterday. So again, I think as a government, we should not have the same mentality as the private sector where we say where people are. Because people are here today and not there tomorrow. So please bear in mind that in certain parts of this country, where people are is sometimes, yeah.
So Chairman, just to respond to that, I fully appreciate the sentiment and the comments, but the people we have on, for instance, the satellite imagery, we can see how people are moving. So what I meant to say is that we're following where the people are, whether they are moving or not, especially in these areas, so that we're able to cover the paths, whether it is even on the highways, whichever places. So we're first targeting that. But each of the counties, each of the areas, we have done a study to be able to know these are the areas we need to cover because they will give people the ICT services they need. By the end of this year, we're talking of 100% voice coverage. I'm hoping that we'd have done significantly more even on broadband coverage, especially with the new technologies that are going to be deployed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Buenos Dias. I really appreciate that, what you just said about being able to monitor how people move around in these counties. These are people who look for grass and water, and they're all over the place. So I really appreciate that. And our people are very happy about telephones and voice coverage. I can call my brother now from the top of the mountains to ask how things are going and so on. And they're very happy to have this service. But please look into what my sister here said and what my brother, actually my nephew here said, that our places are full of mountains. Turkana is flat, but it's got mountains. Pokot is worse because it's got high mountains and it's got valleys. Let's have this technology that's able to serve the people in the valleys as well as the ones on top of mountains. I've seen that people have to climb trees or climb mountains to be able to access communication. Now, 208 million is a lot of money, as you say, for Turkana. But how that money is going to be spent is my question. How is that money going to be spent? Do you ever involve the members of those counties so that now they can know, okay, so this much was spent here and this much spent here, and also be able to advise you on some issues? Using satellite is one thing, but actually getting actual information from the resident is more important. So would you please look into involving especially now the senators and members of parliament into how you spend these 208 million, and whether those masts and distribution stations are put in the right locations.
So, Mr. Chairman, I think that would go, I can answer that now, but it would really cover also the area of how we disburse, how the tendering process takes place.
Next question. So let's hear from Senator Ogisio. Then you can.
Chairman, from 1965, section of paper number 10, the country has been divided into what you can call useful Kenya and useless Kenya. and that's true, it's in policy. And so what used to be called useless Kenya is trying to catch up with what used to be called useful Kenya. And Turkana, West Pokot, parts of Baringo, and so on were discriminated against. and in terms of providing communication, even when you say that 100% by December, it's going to be 100% of useful Kenya. I cannot guarantee 100% by December. I'll probably get a big bull from him as a present for you if you do 100% by December. And I'll get it in a normal way, he knows how it is. But having said that, if this is the only place that can equalize Kenya, it's communications. And so my challenge is the seriousness you put into these areas, which are so-called marginalized areas. You should put your priorities, I think, upside down and start with them so that they can actually begin to catch up. Now, my question is on this contract. So one of the uses of the Universal Service Fund is capacity building. To the place where, in my view, and I suggest this is probably my view, but it should be, to the place where if you're looking for people to do contracts in these counties, you should find them locally. So I would ask what efforts are being made to actually prepare and help build the capacity, even of people who can do contracts, communications contracts that you're offering in those areas that are covered, that are hitherto unprepared.
Chair, perhaps as the CS consults, I could just add, you know, as Senate, one of the things that we are always trying to do is to get as much resource to counties as possible. Would devolving these funds to would devolving these funds to counties, perhaps, maybe even if not now, could plans to do this be looked at, so that then
all right, Senate ICT Committee having that particular discussion with ICT CS Joe Mucheru. Time now for a quick break. You're watching Citizen Extra. When we come back, we're talking about agribusiness, and are you a